Listen, you can always trust that the
Wow.
introduction to this show is fire.
Wow. My headphones was like this. I was like, wait a minute. Did I do something to my settings? Or did she turn up the bass?
I was the bass. We got to get
Jeez.
ready. We got to get ready for this show. What's up, everybody? Happy
Hey,
Tuesday.
I think I'm ready today then after that track intro.
See, see, it's a real thing. I am Jessica Dugas, and this is Farron Dozier.
Whatever. Hello.
He tried to be absent today. Literally tried to send me a doctor's note.
We don't get sick calls. I can't
Nah,
go. We don't get no
nah.
time off in this job. What kind of gig is this, man?
No, no. We've been going down the rabbit
Please
hole
take
of
that down, please.
no. We've been going down the rabbit hole of trust here on Beyond 2D. We started off a few months back with communication. We talked about being authentic. We've talked about a lot of different things already, a lot of things, and now we've been going down the rabbit hole of trust. You trying to grab the globe?
If it moves,
We're going down the rabbit hole of trust, and we talked the first week about trusting ourselves, which I think is is one of the foundational pieces here to this puzzle. And then we talked about trusting others, which it's a really tough conversation, trusting others. And I think there was one thing I wanted to ask you last week on that he's like, no, we've moved on.
It's your chance.
Nope. Okay, so we talked about like whether or not it's important. You were sharing about your priorities in relationships, like whether or not it's important that you trust other people.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for you to be trusted or to feel as if you are trusted by someone else?
Ooh. I don't think that's important either.
Really?
Yeah. Because I can't ask for something that I don't care about.
Right.
So it's like, how can I want you to trust me when I don't trust you? So then,
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have the initial same reaction, but then I would also follow up with, it's nice to feel trusted. It's nice to feel like well, I mean, it's sort of like it's kind of a two-way thing. So on one hand, it's nice to feel trusted, and then also it feels like a weight at times, like a responsibility that sometimes is, there's a weight to it.
Yeah, because it's like, how can I worry about if you trust me? Because if I end up telling you the truth about something and you still don't believe me,
right,
then I gotta defend myself. And see, I'm a great defender. I can defend myself real easy. So how can I worry about how can I have all that when if I tell you the truth and you don't believe me, then it's a trap. I think it's a trap.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ultimately, I think it feels good to be trusted. I think, we've talked several times during all of these series about being parents, because you and I are both parents, and how I've been thinking a lot this week, actually, about trust and how that dynamic is with my children going both directions. And we really, like, I have been forthright on this show that we've had a lot of familial challenges since January, and in that there's a lot of broken trust that has happened, and I will be 100% in telling you, as we go into this topic tonight of trusting again, that I'm not there yet.
Oh yeah, that's why I try to call in sick, because I'm not there either. So if we make, I believe if we make it through today's conversation, I think we can handle any topic on the table. Honestly, that's how I feel about coming in today. Those first 10 that were, that was easy peasy. But
this is a tough one.
when you put your feet in those shoes, and there's one that it's like, ooh, I can fit it in I can put my foot in there, but yeah, that's my description of that.
Yeah.
This is honestly, this is a tough conversation for me.
Yeah, I think it is for a lot of people. I know Lynn's watching tonight, and she said, I'm dealing with trust issues with someone very close to me. Second time, same issues. So that's why this topic of trusting again, I think it's as hard as it is. I think that's why it's so important, because so many of us have been through that, where we're like, because look, I don't think, I'm going to just speak for myself. I was going to say I don't think anybody, but I'm just going to just speak for myself. I don't ever want to believe that someone is out to get me. Like, I don't ever want to believe that someone's going to hurt me. Absolutely. If they did it once, they'll do it again. I don't ever want to believe that. I don't ever want to believe the worst in someone. However, it has happened, and it is similar to Lynn's situation where.
But see, that goes back to Lynn's. And the first thing that came to mind, Lynn, was we are also the common denominators in these trust conversations. So right. Maybe it's our behavior that when we feel like the trust is not there, that we're the ones maneuvering the trust. So it's gonna turn out like it's happened again before, because that's how I'm reacting to that situation. And so it's always going to turn out the same way, because my mind is going to make me right that, see, I told you.
Right.
I told you. Same thing again. But I believe it's us first still that that is responsible for how that trust conversation, the end result of it. So
right. Yeah. Well, and I can say, like, a lot of times when people will write into us and there's comments like, I'm aware of the specifics, and so I will say this, that we all, at the end of the day, and I think we're going to come down to this at the end of this show as well, it's our choice what we do with the situation. If I shared yesterday, when I shared about the show, the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, line that people use sometimes, and it's a tough one, because I try to put myself on the other side of that too sometimes, and know how many times I screw up on the regular.
That's
on the regular. And going back to what I asked at the beginning of, do you have a desire to be trusted? I think there's been times when I might have dropped the ball 5, 6, 7 times, and thank God that someone trusted me again, because then I was it. But I want to preface everything that we talk about tonight by saying that if you are in a toxic, abusive, any kind of situation like that, walk out the door. You do not have to take what we're saying here as absolutely you, and you point the finger, how many are pointing back at you, things like that. When everything we say here tonight, I just want to preface everything by saying that you set your worth. You set your worth. You set that. And so if there's things going on that are not kosher, don't feel any kind of pressure here tonight to feel like you have to trust again.
Oh yeah, it's all context, and I really believe, when it comes to language and what I'm learning about language, context is very important. So the context, of being in a relationship that's abusive, it takes courage. It takes something, that self-worth to be able to say, nah, I'm done with this. Like, it takes something, because there's a whole nother other side that's going to come with that life, right? When you make that choice to leave a situation that's unhealthy, you've got to be, now you're going to be responsible for your part of yourself. Now there's something that you're going to take responsibility for your life and moving it forward. And sometimes all that plays a part in our decision making. Is it worth leaving and all this other stuff? So I was in a similar situation before, and the kind of person that I was like, give me another chance. Like, let me let I can make it better. And it was, yeah, that was something that I used for myself to kind of defend myself with. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
context, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I'd almost like to preface every show that we do with that, just because obviously everybody comments and we don't always know specifics of every
Oh
situation.
no.
And so, it's there's a lot of things that are circumstantial. um Lynn said, I guess that's where my issue is. I guess I didn't set the boundaries for him and let him know what my worth was.
Mm.
Mm. Mm. That's I can so relate to that, of how many times I will go into a situation. Oh, how many times? How many times I go into a situation and realize that we didn't go back to the first topic we talked about on this show. I didn't communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say this is what we're not going to be doing here.
Right.
I didn't set the rules. I didn't set my worth. I didn't nothing. And then I get mad when the trust is broken, but I never said, "Hey, this is what's going to be unacceptable."
So are those considered boundaries?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think they would be considered personal boundaries. And I think, like so many other times we've talked about on this show, I think it was last week that we brought this up, that sometimes it depends on the person, how those boundaries and rules are a little bit different.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I might let certain people um you know uh slide when they say, I'm not gonna come, show up to a show. But Farron, I'm like, you better get your ass on that screen. Different
Gee, thanks.
ground rules, boundaries for different people, because and it comes from a place of love.
Of course, it all does. Even the things that we think that are, I mean, sometimes abusive. You know, I believe, like you said, I don't think anybody. I don't think the normal person intentionally does stuff on purpose to
Mm,
hurt us. I don't think that's like 100%.
right.
Maybe 20%, maybe 10%, maybe 25%. But the greater of the people, I believe that we are so wanting to be loved and show love, but we're so guarded at the same time and
Mm,
protective of our emotions and our feelings and how I view myself, that we have these, as Caldwell education teaches, these hidden agendas,
mm,
right? And so how do we communicate to from me to you to uncover your hidden agenda? And
mm,
that's a conversation that we can have, that if I'm willing to learn those principles and learn those tools, that I could literally have conversations with people and find out their hidden agenda before it gets to the point where I feel like I'm being taken advantage or whatever. I'm hurt by you because I'm asking questions and I'm listening for your response and I'm
mm,
questioning and I'm asking and I'm engaging, and maybe, you know what, maybe this is not a good friendship for me to be in because of, based on what you shared with me. Now I get to say, you know what, nah, I think I'm good. But
yeah.
and so that person feels like, oh well, he gave me an opportunity, right? And it didn't work. Not at the end where it blows up and it's like, well, you didn't tell me, you didn't say what your boundaries were, like, because they're in language
Right.
and we have to communicate those. And so Caldwell has a distinction, um, a part of his education that teaches how to communicate and discover hidden agendas. It is, and if when applied, it is a very powerful tool. Uh, you got to be willing to use that tool though,
Yeah.
because it's effective to the
Right.
point where you're like, ooh, ooh, you could begin to question yourself, because then you got to self-reflect, like, am I being too hard on people? Are my standards, to the point where I don't trust anybody, so I'm using that to defend people off? Like Lynn, like she was saying, like sometimes we don't have that conversation ahead of time, and then it looks like the past all over again. So
right.
yeah.
It's a tough it's a tough topic all around. I think I, I've talked about on the show before the fact that I tend to be pretty and I talked about this before, pretty naive when it comes to what I expect from people, and thinking that it's always going to be, happy thoughts, happy, happy things going on, and it's hard when it's not, and you put yourself, you have like that higher percentage of trust like we talked about, and then it's knocked down, and for whatever reason, and whoever the quote unquote blame is for the trust being knocked down, and it's like I'm trying to think of like things that I would need to start rebuilding that trust again. Is there anything that you can think of in a partner that would prove to you that you could trust again, or even just a friend or anything? Is there anything like you feel like that would start to, is it just time? Like, what is it that starts to rebuild at all? Can it be rebuilt at all for you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't have answers to that, because I am still managing that for myself.
Yeah.
So because I live, and I probably live from this principle. It's probably a corrupted principle. I talk about corrupted principles. This is probably one of my corrupted principles, that you can't put things past people, right? But then I know the next show about the spirituality and the faith part of it, probably I'll save it for that. But there's also some biblical principles that say not to put your trust in man,
right,
like that. So it's like, but I have that in me, like I just don't put nothing past anybody. So therefore, it reduces my level of trust to people, and I don't put nothing past myself either. So then it reduces my trust toward myself as well.
mm-hmm.
So and I live in that, and I gauge myself from that. So I don't think there's a real answer to that, because we all have different things that have threatened our trust. And how can I demand something from someone that I don't have for myself? And not that I don't trust myself, but I'm a male, I'm a human being, and
we're gonna put labels on it now. That's
lead us not into temptation.
Oh Lord,
lead us not into. I am a human being. I am a male, and so I have to be responsible for that. And that is something that I'm, and that's real for me.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of my flaws and my weaknesses. I mean, at least a great percentage of them. So integrity. Me saying that, you know what? I don't think you want to trust me all the way.
Would you ever say that to someone? Would you ever?
I would.
Would you really?
I would.
Really? Like, how would that conversation go? And would you like prepare yourself for the result of what could happen if you say that?
Yeah, but that's the thing that I have to be okay with, because everybody's not going to like that kind of conversation.
Right.
So then right off the top, if I don't feel, so if you respond with that and it's non-negotiable, trust over everything, then if you're not interested in asking me why I feel that way about that, or where's that coming from, and then I could express that to you. This is where it's coming from. And then you could be like, well, you know what? I'm willing to work through that with you. Are you willing to talk about that? If that shows up, can we talk about it? And I would be willing to talk about that, because then there becomes there you go, repairing and building trust. But I have to be authentic with myself
Right.
first. And if that's my integrity, that I don't trust myself, so I don't want you to put your trust in me, then I think that's a good level to start from.
Right. Right. I think ultimately it comes a lot down to being okay with the result of whatever you decide to do in the trusting again situation. You
Yeah.
have to know that if you choose to trust again and that trust is broken again, you better prepare yourself for whatever that's going to look like. And because I think that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, sort of. I think about it in trust that way. A lot of times for me, when trust is broken, um and like if the other person did something or whatever, then it go, well, I get all like, what the hell? How could they, and then when if it happens, if I decide to trust again and it happens again, then I go, well, what the hell, Jessica? That that um issue with trust turned from my issue with them to now I'm seeing it as what it was the first time, which was an issue with me.
And I think that's the best place to start.
Yeah.
I think that's the best place to start with these conversations that we've had and having, is your self reflection first, and
Mm,
you got to be willing to tell the truth to yourself around your trust and what causes you not to trust people, right?
yeah.
And so I believe all of that is then the sum of my behavior,
Mm,
and then what I'm protecting myself from. I'm guarded. Like, again, how can you come into a relationship and trust is the main factor? I'm gonna miss out on all of your greatness. I'm gonna miss out all of your love and compassion and all that, because I'm keeping score of if I can trust you.
mm,
And if
yeah.
in that context, if the relationship is already done, because as soon as it looks like, and this is what for Lynn, as soon as it looks like a distrust is happening, before I say anything, then guess what? I've already turned it to distrust, and then I'm gonna behave and move. So it ends up being that, yep, I couldn't trust you anyway.
Yep.
And then I'm right, you're wrong, and I
Yep.
never found out what was going on in your life that triggered, the whole distrust conversation or whatever. I don't even engage. I just chalk you off. And then that's not communicating.
That scorecard that you talked about, and I talked about it briefly in my post yesterday on Facebook as I was talking about doing the show today. Um, if you can't throw that out, I mean, you I think it's okay for you if you can't, you got to know that it's your choice whether you're going to throw out that scorecard or not.
Mhm.
Okay. But if you're not willing to throw out that scorecard, if that scorecard, going back to some of the conversations that we had about integrity, like it's something
Mhm.
that
All
is
of there.
outside of your principles and everything else, then you probably need to walk away. Like I'm just like, as hard as that is to say it, like if you can't go forward, so going to Lynn's comments, so I give him a third chance since I didn't draw the boundaries. Not necessarily.
Yeah, not
Because if you
necessarily.
can't move forward in this situation and throw that scorecard completely away, if you can't look at that person and not see all those images and not be willing to throw that out, then the answer is probably not going to be more chances.
And if that's the situation where, again, you got to look at yourself and take responsibility for your conversation about the distrust and see
Right.
how it fits you, and then maybe say, hey, you know what, I really want to be with you and hang out with you, but these are some of my trust issues, and this is what it looks like. And so, and guess what, you kind of spark some of those trust issues. So can we talk about that? Because maybe he would be willing to make those corrections in his own life and
Right.
be like, hey, well, guess what, I didn't know that was distrust for you. That's just me, how I behave. So
Right.
let's be aware, let's play a game and be aware of it, and I'll let you point it out to me when you feel like it looks like distrust for you.
Mm.
That furthers the conversation. But if
Right.
it's on me, then I'm always going to be looking. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what person you put in front of me. I'm always going to look for that part of the distrust in them, and I'm always going to find it. I'm always going to, if I don't trust people because of they might cheat on me, guess what? I'm always going to look for those signs of cheaters. And if it looks like a kind of a cheater, like from my past, then there it is right there. So now I'm focused on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
If it looks like a duck, and
oh, I got one for you. So if it's nighttime, check this out though. If it's nighttime and it's dark, can you tell the difference between a zebra and a horse?
um, if I'm just looking and far away, like if I'm in the car, quarter of a mile down the road, I even have my snazzy bifocals on, I probably can't tell.
So the quack like a duck stuff is another is not necessarily true, because a zebra and a horse almost look the same in the dark.
But if that zebra bites you and there are photos of the zebra,
well, by the time they bite you, you're going to see their stripes. A horse doesn't have black and white stripes.
Okay, then there's my answer. If you
said in the dark.
Okay, if you are able to see the stripes, walk away. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to go ahead with that. In the dark. If you can see them stripes.
That is not a horse.
It's not a horse. The analogies have gone off the charts here today. Let me go to Brittany's comment. I think it's different for everyone. Some people I can gain trust back easily, but others not so much. I think it all comes back to communication and understanding to be able to trust again. And she goes on to say, you have to choose yourself at times. It's so hard to do, especially when you care deeply for the other person.
You know, we live by this corrupted principle called fake it till you make it. Do you like that? Do you like that? Do you like that?
No, because listen to me. Since you wanted to throw a zebra and a horse out there, I'm going to tell you something right now. I am a big girl, okay? I cannot fake putting my behind into size 2 pair of jeans. There ain't no faking nothing. That's not a real thing. I don't care what. I get the sentiment behind it. I understand what they're saying, but no.
But but if you live like that, then how is that part of trust? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
How is that a part of integrity when you're living? I'm gonna fake it till I make it. Mm-hmm. And you fake it till you make it in your business, or you fake it till you make it in a relationship, or you fake it to make it in life. There is a lack of integrity. It's fractured. There's something there that happened to you in the past that tells you that I gotta fake it till I make it. Mm. And so peeling off the word trust, the label trust, there's so many layers to it that equals the result of this. Oh, this is what trust looks like. As she said, everybody has their own version of trust, and everybody has their own views of where it's coming from and what it looks like and what it feels like. And what it feels like sometimes first, the warm and fuzzy, oh, I trust you so much. And then, ooh, I never thought you would act like that one day. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
yeah,
nah, I believe it's important to a relationship, but it can't be the only, for human beings, it can't be the main focus of that relationship. It can't be trust.
And it can't be like, I can absolutely see how in my first marriage, trust was very, very high on my list because of what I had seen with my parents' relationships, and everything else. So trust was very high on the list for me. Wasn't to them, of course, but it was very high on the list for me. And And there were a lot of things in that situation where I absolutely had the choice on many instances to walk away from the situation, and I didn't. You want to talk about trusting again? I can't tell you how many times of being cheated on and abused and all of these different things, and how many times. I'm grateful for that situation, because trust is not, despite that, trust is not a conversation my husband and I have to have often. We've maybe talked about trust maybe 3 times in all this time we've been together, but it is not high on the list. I don't think. I really, like, I think we're at where you're talking about you are, where it's just not, I don't know. And maybe I'm sitting here wondering if it's because we do trust each other so much. I don't know. I don't know, because maybe that plays into it too. Maybe the level of trust that we have.
You don't look at the lack of.
Right.
Because sometimes, and I know myself, sometimes we focus on the lack. Right. The brain wants to survive, and in order to survive, I got to understand what's missing, what's lacking, so that I can get that, so that it's not lacking. And so, but with human beings, with people, it's a whole different context, because people can grow and change, and people do what they do, and behaviors, and we can pretend like everything's fine for 20 years. And then this happened. So I sat, before we go on break, I sat with myself, honestly, before this show, and I was thinking, okay, what is my root? And you said it for yourself, is my parents. At 40 years old, when I forgave my parents, when I asked my parents to forgive me for my behavior, I got a level of my trust back for myself. Right? So the trust or the distrust that I thought that I had in my parents for all those years, when I realized that it wasn't that actually everything was fine, it rebuilt my own integrity. It rebuilt my own level of trust, because I was no longer blaming my parents for situations of my life. And that gave me my integrity back. And it gave me the ability to be responsible for my integrity, when I could truly see that if I had that with my parents, how could I have a relationship with other people? I'm referencing something from that distrust, and sometimes it's from our parents. So I could tell you, I regained my integrity back. I gained a higher level of trust back from the moment that I asked my parents to forgive me for my behavior toward how I treated them. And that gave me a whole nother view of life.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what we talk about when we come back.
No, we're not.
We're coming back, and we're going to talk about.
Thanks for tuning and listening in.
We're going to talk about
a half show today.
A couple, 2-3 things when we come back.
Thanks for the 30-minute show today.
Let us know where you struggle when it comes to trust and or trusting again down in the comments, and we'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Trust me. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother.
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man.
There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
Welcome back to Beyond 2D. We are down the rabbit hole of trust for the 3rd week in a row. And I want to come back really quickly on break and congratulate Farron on the heels of that commercial spot there, because I know you receive a proclamation for sickle cell. Tell everybody a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, so in my city of Fontana, I went to the mayor a few years back and gave her basic conversations of my cause, of what I stand for in this community and what I wanted to bring to this community. And so we put together a proclamation and for August to be Sickle Cell Trait Prevention Month. And so that was my 8th one. So very proud of that. Just to be able to reinforce this conversation where I live in my community and have her support. And this year I told her, COVID is kind of settled down and, people are back out hanging out. So you'll see me more as I take on these high schools, educating these athletes about sickle cell trait and rhabdomyolysis and collapsing and hydration. So I've been kind of quiet because of the COVID stuff, but I'm coming back a little bit stronger this time to reinforce that dialogue. So, and then I had the opportunity to go to Houston, Texas, for a convention. We spoke about sickle cell trait there. And then tomorrow morning, I'm flying to Tennessee to speak at a African-American police conference, which, just like athletes and military, police officer cadets have collapsed during their training sessions or joining the police force and died from sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdo. So I'm going there, got a 4-hour block to educate them from A to Z as much as we can get in, just about that gene. But what really is my conversation is that objectification. I want to speak to them. Like, I had this whole presentation that I was going to label it law enforcement, right? And then this is what the law enforcement needs to know. Yeah. But the spirit says no. They're people first. Before that uniform, they're people. So share that message from the human connection, not from you're a law enforcement and this is what it looks like for you. No, this is what it looks like for all of us. Mm-hmm. So I didn't redo my presentation. I kept it the same because it's going to be delivered to them as a person and not from a police officer standpoint. So
love that. I love that because it makes me so happy that you didn't change it, because there's so many things, no matter what we're talking about, that we like to put labels on as this is for this person, this is for this group, this is for this group. And even if the percentage is small, things are typically not down to one small group of people. It's a human issue. It's a human issue. For sure. So Lynn said congratulations on the proclamation as well.
Thank you.
We're super proud of you here on the Breakthrough Show Network.
Thank you.
Back to the trust conversation now, because I'm giving you a little breather on that.
Let me up.
Yeah, I want to focus for a minute on the ability to be able to trust ourselves, and I think so much of whether or not we feel like we can trust ourselves is based on outside circumstances. I shared with Farron at 3 a.m. a couple nights ago that I was having issues trusting that when I opened my door that there weren't going to be bats in the living room. Because the night prior to that, I opened my door and there were bats in my living room. And they didn't look like zebras in the dark.
Now those were bats. Now you know a bat when you see a bat.
I could not tell actually if they were bats or birds. Could not, because it was so dark and I didn't have my glasses on. I was blind to tell. Okay.
It wasn't upside down?
No, they were flying at me, Farron.
Oh.
Okay. Brittany got a message from me in the morning, the next morning, and the message was so messed up. She's like, "What exactly are we talking about?" But here's the thing. So the next night, I go and get up in the middle of the night. I need to leave my bedroom, and I was scared to death to open my door. Scared to death. I knew. I want to believe that there was nothing out there, but I was so messed up from the night before. I'm shaking. Woke up my husband, who did not appreciate that at all, and I said, "I am afraid to open the door. I'm afraid to open the door, baby. I can't do this right now." He's like, "I'm literally right here," and I'm like, "But what are you gonna do all the way over there?
From here.
What are you? I want you to open the door and take the first hit in the face with the bat. Okay, that's what I want you to do. All right." But going back to communication there, but I didn't say that. That's what I wanted to happen though. I didn't want to take the bat to the face. But at any rate, so many times I think the conversation about trusting ourselves comes back to ego and control. That's the other word I was looking for. Control. Okay. So if we don't feel like we have control of a situation, I think if our level of control is higher, and I can't even say it's actually higher. Like if we believe our level of control is higher, that level of trust in ourselves is a little bit higher. So I think that's where people say, when I asked about trust a few weeks ago on my Facebook page, and I was asking just about trust in general, so many people said, "I absolutely trust myself, but I sure as hell don't trust other people," because they feel more in control of themselves. We know we don't have control over other people. So, but how much control do you feel like you have? Complete control of yourself, Farron?
Heck no. Only because of the work that I've done. Yeah, I understand that there is that, like the reptilian part, as Caldwell says, the reptilian part of that brain that won't let you open that door that next morning. Like that's the fear that has been put in us as human beings. Don't get left outside of the other side of that rock when it's time for the cave, the father of that cave family to roll that stone. You better be inside, of those lions and tigers and bears or mine are gonna get you. And so that's a natural human being, flaw or survival skill. That's a natural skill. Right. It's natural. So for each one of us, we have to figure out about our natural trust, and then what's the trust that came from emotional and issues in life and people that we say cheated on us or whatever that human trust is. You got to be able to separate the survival skill trust, which you need to live life, versus the emotional part of that trust that gets mixed into all of it. So right. you not wanting to not trust the door on the other side of the door is no different than me wanting not to trust another person. Like right. It feels the same, but it's not the same. But it feels the same because the body has those emotions and feelings, and so we clump it up into all trust or not trusting or distrusting, and
Right.
so because I believe it feels the same, but in language you have to separate it, especially toward people.
Mm. Yeah.
You have to change your trust when it's coming to people, because people have their own views of trust, their own trust issues, and we could be a great couple and don't trust each other. Doesn't mean we can't be in a relationship. We just
Right.
understand that we just don't trust each other. And so what are the conversations we're going to have to ensure that when my flag goes up that I don't trust you,
Right.
can I come to you and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Right.
Are we good? And those are the things in our communication that we're talking about.
Oh, I have a question, but I need to hang on. Lynn said, "No, I don't think I have complete control over myself and my emotions." And I did want to touch on that really briefly about. So it was pretty early on in my life when I learned that I couldn't trust my body. That there was, because I had different illnesses I dealt with from the time that I was very young, and then when I was 16. And I thought I was going to be on the diving team. That was real cute. And then I did a dive, slipped the disc in my back, and had back surgery when I was 16 years old. So I learned very early on, like, my body's going to do whatever it wants to do. And so I really feel like I've spent a lot of time on reflection. Of course, I didn't realize this, until I really looked at this, but I've spent a lot of time almost overcompensating for how much control I have over my mind and my emotions and my thoughts and things like that. Like, I've spent a lot of time trying to have more control, to be more controlled.
Yeah.
Of that, because of the body situation. And so I have a lot of work that I'm trying to do still now on forgiving myself for it, and even not even forgiving myself for a lack of control, but forgiving myself for feeling like I needed to have control over those things as well.
Right. I agree.
You go ahead and talk for a minute, because I got to get back to that question I had for you that was really important, and now it's gone. Damn.
Well, I wanted to say, do you consider yourself a student athlete? Did you consider yourself a student athlete?
No.
In the swimming?
No. I think there's really a lot of history and story behind what I tried to do when I got to high school. I started doing a little bit of sports in middle school. I was on field and track and field. For those of you that know, I don't run. I tried to run in 6th grade, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
But I did field events. I did shot put, discus, things like that. And then
So you were an athlete,
but I didn't think of myself in that way. And
right. I say that because the age that you're talking about is the age of the searching for our identity.
Right, but I'm not sure that I ever had that trust in myself to
as
be an athlete. Right.
But you did all the sports.
But I did them. They didn't last very long, because then I'd hurt myself. And so you think about that. Think about where my mindset was when it came to trusting myself, and how often I got hurt. And what are some of the mindset things around that? It's really, this is a fun.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard when you said the swimming and all the stuff. Like, that age is where we begin, after we've done absorbing our environment stuff. It's time to test that stuff out. And there's it's trial and error. Not all, but it's trial and error when we turn to our peer age for love and acceptance and friendship and trust and all that. We're going now to our peers, because I've already broken the trust from my parents is not there. So now I'm looking for this level of trust that we're talking about in my peer group. And that's what I'm saying. If you heal your trust in your family group first, guess what it gave me? It gave me my trust back into my peer group, where I thought I didn't have it in my family, but it was always there in my family.
Well, and then imagine what happens when you start to build that trust in a peer group, and you get hurt and you can't play anymore, and that peer group is still focused on that. They don't want nothing to do with you no more.
So your sense of belonging, your acceptance, all of that is now turned into a little bit of rejection, a little bit of disappointment, and not in them only, but in yourself, because of whatever happened to myself. And so how can you then be an adult and think we're gonna have trust in friends and trust in relationships? Like, no, you gotta go back. You gotta go back, and you gotta be willing to go back.
Yeah.
You gotta be before. I don't know. I won't say before, but you just gotta be willing to go back and take a look to where that first moment of distrust came from. And I believe it's way before our peer age.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Way before our peer age. Where was that first moment that you felt like there was some broken trust? And I'm sure it's going to go back to your four walls of your house.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember the other question I was going to ask, but this had me as we go back. I'm going to watch the replay and jog my memory. Don't you worry. I'm going to have a starting question next week. But since we talk about going back to, because this is a whole other rabbit hole for me, talk about going back to a moment when trust was broken, right? Where that, have you ever thought back to people that never let you down, that there was never an ounce of trust broken, that maybe it was a great, like, have you ever had a relationship like that and wondered if that if the ability to trust weighs in at all on our distrust? Like does it make us have more trust when maybe we shouldn't? Does it make us maybe not have so much of that? What were you talking about? Caldwell was talking about something about signs.
We talked about hidden agendas.
Right.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, have you had those situations where you're like, man, I had it so good in this relationship? Did that at all set you up to maybe trust in instances where you shouldn't have?
You know, to me, we're going back, right? That relationship, the first relationship that popped in my mind was my relationship with my grandmother. That was oh my goodness, like there was nothing. There was I could trust her with everything, everything, right? And that distrust, and this is what I'm saying, the disconnection from my mom was at 2 years old. See, we get disconnected from parents very young, and then we don't. I didn't have the language to tell you that right at that age what that was for myself. All I knew was I was now connected to my grandmother. That's where I grew up, who nurtured me, who I felt. Now, my mom was always there, but the disconnection that happened between me and my mom, that trust, I can't say was my mom. It didn't come to my mind as my mom. It came to my mind as my grandmother. Pure 100%. Now, that lady right there, 100% trust. 100. I can't even know. There's nothing that she could have done or said to me that would have broken the trust from her. Nothing. So yeah, I believe we could say that, right? That there are people that we've come in contact with that, for sure. But then, where's the trust in my mom? Where was that trust in my mom?
Right.
The woman who gave birth to me. But now I can say I have trust in my mom now. But where did my first thought go to? My grandma.
Right.
So 100%.
Yeah. I think about that with I got teary-eyed over here because it's the same very similar situation with my grandparents as well. And how many times in conversation with my grandmother since she's passed away, I have said, like, why do you have to love me so hard? Like, because there's get emotional here, because there's part of me that I'm so thankful for that, because I think that's where I get that from, the way that I love people in that way. But in the same time, it's also that thing that I want to find that quote that I was going to read last week.
I feel you. I feel you. And those are parts of the things as human beings that you could have both parents in the house and still have a child who's upset with their parents, right? Because sometimes there's so much love that now you can't compare that love. That child can't compare that love to anybody else when it's time for them to find their own love, because I'm gauging it off my dad or my mom who loved me so much that you can't. No one's gonna meet that. So then we live with a little bit of distrust because no one's gonna meet that standard.
Yep. There's a quote I wanted to share last time from Anne of Green Gables, which is one of my favorite movies. And she says at one point, "I can't help flying up on the wings of anticipation. It's as glorious as soaring through a sunset. It almost pays for the thud." Like, it's like setting, like, you're going to come down eventually. It's coming. They can't possibly live up to that level of trust that you had, but you put yourself out there anyway. You do it anyway. And I just want to before we end the show, I want to my final word to everybody is that song "I Hope You Dance" by Leanne Womack.
I probably heard it.
I hope you trust. I really do, because as painful as it can be to come soaring down and to have that distrust broken, I think there really is something beautiful in having that closeness, in having that that level of vulnerability. There's that word that we've talked about a few times.
It's in my list as the top 3 still. I can't shake that word.
And as long as you can have some sort of detachment from the outcome of choosing to trust, the experience of trusting, I feel like is something that, like, there's been I don't think much of a bigger lesson in my life than where trust is concerned. And as much as it might have been painful from time to time to come down from that when trust is broken, I hope you are able to trust at some point now. And remember that trusting again is your choice and on your terms. And that's where I would like to leave my thoughts on this topic.
Yeah. I had some notes here. I just want to say that at the end of the day, people are not our problem. It's not the people. It's the fractured integrity. It's the past experience. Sometimes it's the stories that we made up about the people that are more traumatic than actually what happened to us with those people. So for me, people are not a problem. Self-reflection is number one, and the ability to tell the truth to yourself first will allow you to have that grace and mercy for people who you don't think you can trust. Because if I know what I'm capable of, I can only imagine what the next person's capable of, and having distrust be a conversation. And what distrust means to me may not mean distrust to you. So there has to be a conversation about these important matters or concerns of our life and relationships, that you have that talk with that person that you're interested in, that you have that person that talk with that person, not 6 months later, not after sex, but before those other emotions get involved, because it's probably a layer easier to not go forth in that relationship if there's no intimacy taking place yet. So these are the conversations that I believe we have to have in the beginning of our friendships and meeting people. You don't have to talk about your past and all the broken trust and hurt from the past, but you can definitely look from the past, reflect, learn the lessons, and then articulate that to the next person and say, hey, yeah, I got some trust issues, and this is what it looks like. I don't have to give you the stories behind it and how much I'm hurt, but at least you can have that, put that conversation on the table, so it could be a negotiation kind of a thing. And if it comes to the point where there's no negotiation, that I don't think I can trust you, then okay, cool. And you can walk away from that. You know what? I'm cool. Nice knowing you. Nice meeting you. Maybe we could do some other work together in another area of life that you do trust me in, whatever. But that intimacy trust is it's a little bit different than just regular friendship. So
yeah,
reflect, heal your relationship with your parents. My whole conversation is reconciliation with our parents, our fathers and our mothers. And I believe that if you reconcile that relationship purely, your whole life will open up, because you'll see so many other different views of where you thought that there was no trust or distrust in yourself, that it was already there. You always had that trust. So your families, your siblings, so important.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How excited are you in 2 weeks that we're going to be talking about?
Now that conversation, I'm ready for that one. I'm ready for that one, because to me, that's what I filter my life, all this trust and distrust through, all my circumstances and concerns and worries, anxiety. Like, I now filter that through my spirituality, because I found something that I truly stand on. And that gives me peace in the rest of what my life looks like.
Next time we'll be talking about trust and faith. Trust where faith is concerned. Spirituality. We're going to get a little spiritual. Little spiritual, and I think it's
not religious. Not religion. We don't
not
talk
religious.
Religion.
That's not what we're talking about here.
Talk religion. No,
little spirituality though. Little spirituality. It'll be nice. We're gonna go to church. We're gonna pass
there you go.
Hey, you can have we can have a little church time here. We could pass the collection plate and not make it about religion.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good conversation, because I know I have a lot of questions around it too, which I think is going to be really good, because I think if we're talking about being people of faith, and there's just a lot. There's a lot where trust is concerned. Yeah, and there's things that a certain religious text will say about. Like we talked about where trust is concerned too. I think it's going to be a great conversation next time, and I hope you'll join us. That's going to be.
I'm not going to be sick that day.
You're not going to be sick that day. You weren't sick today, my friend. You did really well. We'll be back on Tuesday, 6 p.m., August 22nd, for that episode of Trust and Faith. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. It's a hard one. I'm a little sweaty, or a little dehydrated. Drink your water, please. Very important. Little dehydrated over here. Getting all teary and everything else. But I do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and please let me know. Any thoughts that you're coming away from this with, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you to Brittany, Lynn, and I just saw Lori pop up. Thank you so much for popping in on the conversation. We appreciate you, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for Trust and Faith. I'm Jessica Dugas. This is
Farron Dozier.
And we'll see you next time on Beyond 2D. Bye, everybody. Beyond.